The story opened with player Shin Sang-yun being congratulated for having cleared the dungeon Ancient Dragon's Nest. A man who looked ragged sighed. He complained as to why he's working so hard when he's almost 60. This is Shin Sang-yun at 55 years old. It's been 30 years since Sang-yun started living as a swordsman, but his best achievement is just that he was in his country's top 100. It basically means he's just a needle in a haystack because there are so many players in the world. He saw a book and wondered if his reward this time was a skill book. He had eaten artifacts before, so it made him curious if he can eat it too. A bright light caught his attention. He was informed that Constellation Late Bloomer Model Student has entered. Late Bloomer Model Student sincerely blessed Sang-yun for his hard work. Additionally, he complimented him for his impeccable final strike. That person who entered so dramatically is his contracted constellation, Late Bloomer Model Student. Sang-yun thanked him for his compliment. Sang-yun felt grateful to him for contracting with him when he's just a mere third-rate swordsman. With Late Bloomer Model Student, once the player reaches level 850, all artifact and title stats will be doubled. Once the player reaches level 900, the said stats will be tripled. Sang-hyun's current level is 650, so he is now way near the power spike. Because of the insane conditions, he has yet to benefit from having Late Bloomer Model Student as his constellation. Late Bloomer Model Student urged him to eat the skill book. Sang-yun had this excited but tired expression on his face as he poured mana on the artifact. Then he said, "I'm going to eat it now! Devour artifacts." It's the skill that Sang-yun acquired when he awakened. In order to understand his skill, he tried to boil and eat artifacts. He also tried frying them, but it didn't feel anything different. By the time he finished his useless experiments, 30 years had passed. When he used mana synchronization with an artifact of a suitable rank, he realized that it activates his Devour Artifact skill. However, by the time he realized how to use his skill, it was already too late. Others grow stronger as they awaken. Old man Sang-hyun failed to synchronize. He watched the book and threw it since he got pissed. He complained how it didn't come with instructions or something. He couldn't believe that it was a skill book. Late Bloomer Model Student says that there is very limited information about that skill available and apologizes for not being able to help. He suggested that since there's a lot of time, Sang-hyun should compromise once more and start mana synchronization again. The statement, "a lot of time," irked Sang-hyun. He was on the verge of tears since he doesn't have a lot of time given that he's almost 60. He stated that if he had a child at 30, then that child would be turning 30. And if he had a child earlier than that, then he might have grandchildren by then. He emphasized that humans die early. Late Bloomer Model Student apologized if he said something wrong. Sang-yun replied that he didn't do anything wrong. He explained that it's just because he has a lot of regrets in his life, and his constellation noted that statement. Sang-yun couldn't forget that person's back, so Sang-yun tried his best to become like him. But now he's exhausted and too old. He stated that if only he's a little younger. His constellation kept on listening. And then Late Bloomer Model Student grinned. Then Sang-yun advised the Late Bloomer Model Student that he's going to retire. And since he's canceling his contract with him, he advised him to just go to another player. Suddenly, Late Bloomer Model Student used his power, and this surprised Sang-yun. All he could see now was a distorted version of his reality. That scene was his last memory as a 55-year-old. Late Bloomer Model Student utilized the essence he had experimented with, and the regression has begun. Dungeons and gates are basically the environments that awakened people, or in other words, players work in. He asked if that's correct. This person speaking is Park Jong-min, aka the player G, a reporter. A red-haired mature woman answered that it's correct. This person is Hyun Jaeon Corporation CEO Han Hyun Jaeong. She explained that dungeons can be called stepping stones for players. And as for the gates, they are other dimensions. In other words, they connect to unknown regions. And those are places where players must explore and pioneer. Jong-min asked her what she thought about that year's dungeon. The interview kept going and a black-haired man watched it. He commented that he had really regressed. Guess who this guy was? You're right. Our old man MC Sang-yun. Sang-yun had finally grasped the situation, but 4 days had already passed. He had gone back by 30 years. After that, he lost consciousness, and when he woke up, he was in his studio apartment from 30 years ago. He was surprised to see that he wasn't in his 55-year-old body, but he's in his 25-year-old body, along with all his memories before he regressed. And no matter how much he thinks about it, the reason he regressed must be because of the constellation's miracle. There was no other explanation. He was still confused, but decided to leave it at that and work out instead. He has a venomous dagger, a bronze artifact, and a one-handed dagger. It has plus 17 attack power, plus 10 agility. It is described as a self-defense dagger, and it does not become blunt easily. It's a bronze tier dagger that Sang-hyun was lucky to acquire. Its rank may be low, but he's aware of its hidden skill. The absorption rate is being determined, and later, it resulted in an absorption rate of 10%. Previous use of the artifact is applied retrospectively, resulting with the final absorption rate being 20%. Even though its absorption rate is low because they haven't used it for long, what's important is its hidden skill. The mana synchronization with Behemoth's dagger has begun. Sang-hyun entered the gap of unconsciousness. He now had this new look with his hair being colored white. The gap of unconsciousness is the space he needed to bypass in order to eat an artifact. Sang-hyun expressed how he's always nervous when he comes there. A plate with whole chicken appeared. The system window informed him that the preparations to absorb Venomoth's dagger is complete. A rotisserie BBQ chicken drizzled with olive oil was served. Sang-hyun was relieved that it's a normal dish. He was worried something like a humid swamp centipede dish was going to come out. He commented that if it's a dish like this chicken, he can eat it any time. The absorption of Venomoth's dagger had begun. He had permanently acquired the stat +2 agility, and a hidden skill Demon Bash has been acquired. Venomoth's dagger, which has been completely absorbed, will disappear forever. Sang-hyun commented how it's a shame that it got destroyed, but it's not like he used it either way. Sang-hyun obtained a useful skill like he planned, and it was time for him to go. At dungeon number 85, Team Yoon Daekyung, someone called Team Leader Yoon Daekyung. Daekyung asked what the Porter Group leader was doing there. The Porter Group leader shared that one of his team members pulled out. It was a newcomer that joined 4 days ago, and his name is Shin Sang-hyun. Daekyung told the Porter Group leader not to worry about Sang-hyun, since it has been decided that he will join the player team. The Porter Group leader was surprised that Sang-hyun is joining the player team and not the Porter team. Daekyung stated that he gave the final approval. He asked if there's a problem. The Porter Group leader expressed that it's a problem since it hasn't been long since Sang-hyun has awakened, and the guy hasn't finished the player academy yet. The Porter Group leader stated that adding a guy like that to the player team has never been done before. He added that the team will be unbalanced and he'll have problems with the distribution of work. Daekyung towered over the Porter Group leader, which terrified the leader. Daekyung pointed out that he takes care of everything like his party and the contribution system distribution. The Porter Group leader remembered that and apologized. When the Porter Group leader left, Daekyung complained about them. A player asked Daekyung why accepted Sang-hyun. Daekyung was unimpressed that this player was asking the same thing. Daekyung simply stated that if there's someone who's going to die, it would be Sang-hyun, not them. He wanted Sang-hyun to act up and die so those porters would shut up. That way their value will be maintained. Daekyung doesn't believe that a level 1 idiot can do anything. The player didn't expect that that would be Daekyung's intention. Sang-hyun greeted them. He introduced himself to them and stated that he'll be working as a player. Everyone looked at him with a scowl on their face. Daekyung had a devilish grin on his face. In his head, Sang-hyun thought of how everyone is expressive. He expected that much, but he thinks they're going too far by not even hiding their expressions. Daekyung welcomed him with a fake smile. He told him that it's nice to meet him and thought he's going to be late on his first day as a player. Daekyung noticed Sang-hyun's weapon. It was a longsword. Sang-hyun replied that he studied a lot of videos on YouTube. Daekyung told him that a long sword is one of the hardest types of swords to wield. Sang-hyun replied that he will try to at least protect himself, so Daekyung should trust him. Daekyung laughed out loud and was pleased with Sang-hyun's spirit. Daekyung stated that men need to have spirit, just like how Daekyung is. Daekyung announced the beginning of the dungeon raid. They're ready to go wild. Daekyung instructed them that once they enter, they should stand by at the entrance. He watched them enter the gate. He kept his eye on Sang-hyun. In his head, studying on YouTube sounds ridiculous. To him, it seemed like Sang-hyun was looking down at the dungeons. He finds Sang-hyun arrogant just because he awakened and became a player. And to him, it seemed like Sang-hyun had a death wish. According to the raid strategy that Daekyung procured, the Orc dungeon is like the Wailing Wall for newbies. Daekyung was confident that Sang-hyun, that stupid idiot, will know his place very soon. But later on, his jaw dropped because of the so-called stupid idiot. They all turned pale as they saw the corpses. It was insane. It made him think about who Sang-hyun really is. Sang-hyun stood in front of a large monster that he had just beheaded. Daekyung couldn't believe his eyes. Sang-hyun's posture oozes with confidence. Not a newbie would have. Orcs are monsters that appear mostly in games, novels, and movies with fantasy settings. Because the humans were so familiar with them, it was only given that humans have prejudices against them. They thought orcs were weak. Of course, when compared to other monsters such as dragons, they certainly are weak, stupid, and just violent. Because of this, new players who are arrogant often jump into a fight against orcs without really thinking too much. Orc's traits are rather simple. A man charged, but to his surprise, the orc grabbed his face. On average, they are 250 centimeters tall and weigh 180 kilograms. This physical trait gives them an overwhelming gap in power against humans. The orc easily crushed the human and blood splattered all over the place. For this reason, orcs were given the nickname, the Wall of Lament. A few moments before our MC's power was revealed, Daekyung's party was walking in the corridor. A player called Sang-Yun and told him that he's not going to get any special treatment for being a newbie, so he's on his own. The other player passively expressed his annoyance at Sang-Yun by calling him an arrogant bastard behind his back and spitting. Sang-Yun simply smiled and told them that he will try his best. He realized that no one is nice to newbies. A man scolded him by saying that he shouldn't just do his best, he needs to do well. They were being really rude to him. Sang-Yun was silent for a moment. Then he asked if he could fight on the front lines if they came across a monster. A man was about to tell him that he's insane, but he stopped mid-sentence. He was terrified at what he saw. There was an orc behind Sang-Yun. It's Sang-Yun's battle after regressing. He was about to volunteer to take care of it when a player with a shield went in front of him and blocked the orc's attack. The man scolded Sang-Yun, saying he's out of his mind. The man doesn't believe that Sang-Yun can use a greatsword when he moves that slowly. Sang-Yun told him that he doesn't need help. The player with the shield told him to shut up and prove his skill. Sang-Yun told him to look in front of him. The man didn't finish spouting rude remarks. Suddenly, he gasped. When he saw Daekyung charging at the orc and pushing it away, the orc fell on the ground. Daekyung scolded the player and Sang-Yun and told them to get their act together. The player apologized. The other player was impressed with Daekyung's move. Daekyung told them to stay back as he takes care of the guy. The orc attacked, and Daekyung blocked it with his shield. He yelled that it was nothing. He stabbed the orc on the chest. The other players were impressed with his move. They asked if it was dead now. The orc made a loud noise while it grinned. Then it raised its axe. Daekyung almost got hit. Too bad his attack earlier didn't kill the orc. Sang-Yun just watched them. He knew that Daekyung was the one with the highest level in there, but he's only at level 50, so he can't land any critical hits on the monster. Daekyung charged at orc. He pierced it again while screaming at it to die already. The orc fell. Everyone rejoiced that he killed it. They were impressed that he made it on his own. Daekyung had a smug look on his face as he replied that it was nothing. He asked them if they're all right. Everyone was pleased, and they expressed how dependable Daekyung is. They were about to go when suddenly they heard a loud noise. Several red orcs were marching towards them. Everyone got terrified at the sight of the high orcs, and there's armored orcs, too. They asked the team leader what they should do. Daekyung decided to fall back for everyone's safety. In his head, he already had a hard time taking down one orc, and now those orcs have arrived. To their surprise, Sang-Yun asked permission if he could try. Everyone was just pissed at him, on top of thinking that he's out of his mind. Daekyung acknowledged that Sang-Yun must be excited that he had awakened. He hadn't finished his sentence yet when he saw Sang-Yun charging at the orcs. Daekyung yelled at him that he's going to get killed. With a single swing of Sang-Hoon's sword, a high orc was defeated. Sang-Yun commented that a great sword is nice. He made a clean cut, too. Upon witnessing that, everyone's jaw dropped. They couldn't believe their eyes. A high orc was split into two. Sang-Yun wondered if it's because he's still at level 1 that the slice didn't feel as clean as he knew it could get. About the player Sang-Yun, he doesn't have title and constellation yet. He has an exclusive skill called Devour Artifacts. He has consumed one artifact. His HP is at 200, MP is 20, EXP at 40. The other orcs got agitated. Several orcs charged at once. Sang-Yun uttered that he may be low level, but he has quite the experience under his belt. He charges forward while swinging his great sword, slicing up several orcs on his way. Another orc attacked Sang-Yun. Sang-Yun easily evaded that attack, and in just one swing, he sliced up that orc. He told the orcs that he had killed a lot of them when he was younger. The players had their mouths gaped open from the shock. They're starting to believe that Sang-Yun could actually kill them all. Sang-Yun was down to the last orc, and it was the armored orc. It's gigantic and has a huge shield, too. It made a loud orc noise. When it attacked, the ground shattered. Sang-Yun was serious. Sang-Yun's great sword had hit the orc, but it only scratched it. Daekyung got worried because the skin of the armored orc was too thick, and the attack didn't work. It was a dire scene. The armored orc was ready to attack again. Its weapon is just a few inches away from our MC. Sang-Yun smiled and said that they didn't need to be so dramatic. The armored orc was surprised. Sang-Yun activated the skill Demon Bash Level 1. Demon Bash is a hidden skill which has 15 seconds cooldown against the same target. It hinders a target, either a monster or a human, for 2.0 seconds. The success rate and time of hindrance depends on the target's skill resistance level. Sang-Yun told the armored orc to just stay like that. The armored orc made a loud, pained noise. Sang-Yun beheaded it, and blood flowed like a river. The players were all stunned. They couldn't believe what they had just seen. The corpses scattered in the area, leaving Sang-Yun the only one standing when he just awoke a few days ago. And the hindrance skill that he just used. It wasn't even ultra-short hindrance. Daekyung knew that even a named player's best was 1.5 seconds. They all think Sang-Yun is too skilled with the great sword. They started considering asking Sang-Yun on what kind of YouTube videos he watches. Daekyung couldn't get over that Sang-Yun used hindrance against an armored orc too. It doesn't make sense to him since Sang-Yun just awakened only a few days ago. He wondered where he got that damned skill. The system congratulated Sang-Yun for leveling up. He had fulfilled the conditions for a title. He had been given the F-rank title, Fearless Immature Puppy. Fearless Immature Puppy is at F rank and increases evasion by +5. Sang-Yun didn't really care about the level up, but the title is a bit unexpected. The system informed him that he has unused bonus stat points. He was required to choose which stat to raise by +1. Sang-Yun had already decided which state he would raise. I learned this too late in his last life, but the luck stat is directly related to skill hit rates and artifact drop rates. It's a necessity for him at the moment. The system informed him that his player's luck has increased. Daekyung asked him if he's really Shin Sang-Yun. Daekyung confirmed with him if the skill he just used was hindrance. He inquired where Sang-Yun learned that skill. In Sang-Yun's head, he answered that he just regressed and he's putting his skills to good use. He can't say that though, so he simply replied that he got it when he awakened. Daekyun was agitated and told him that it doesn't make sense. He told Sang-Yun not to avoid the question. He asked if it's actually because Sang-Yun got insanely lucky and got a diamond rank artifact, or even something higher. Daekyun was staring at Sang-Yun's sword when he said that. Sang-Yun offered his sword and asked Daekyung if he wanted to check it. Daekyung was surprised, but he accepted the gesture. He saw that it's a faded great sword, an ordinary artifact, a two-handed weapon with an attack power of +50. It is a normal great sword of normal design without any special abilities. Daekyung was surprised to know that it's really a regular great sword. So his next question was, if the skill is really Sang-Yun's. Daekyung felt bad since he's been running dungeons for 2 years, but he doesn't have a skill as good as Sang-Yun despite him being at level 50. He also thought about the pay for that day. Someone called the team leader and reported that the middle boss is up. Daekyung had a scowl in his face, but he replied that they'll get going. Daekyung told Sang-Yun that taking care of the minions became easy because of him, but he reminded him not to overstep too much. He told Sang-Yun that his nice skill isn't going to do anything against the demon orc that they will be fighting soon. Sang-Yun remembered the reason he returned to that party as soon as he regressed. Sang-Yun called the team leader. Daekyung expected him to say that he's scared, but Sang-Yun negotiated that if he kills the demon orc on his own, he wants the artifact. It's the reward for killing it. The party Sang-Yun chose to pay people according to their performance. The Crimson Stone is an artifact that can only be attained by defeating demon orcs. That being said, even after defeating hundreds of demon orcs, it is said to be difficult to obtain. Rather, its chances of dropping are extremely low. However, in Sang-Yun's past life, after their team failed to defeat the demon orc, they were lucky enough to see the Crimson Stone when another team was lucky enough to get their hands on it. Back then, Sang-Yun was all bruised up when he heard someone congratulating a captain. The captain was bald, had a round face and body, and he's holding the round Crimson Stone. The other players asked him how he managed to get it. He asked them if it would sell for a huge sum in the market. Someone is aware that it's one of the only artifacts with the delay skill. The captain told the player to stop talking so much because it felt like he's spitting. Back then, Sang-Yun was intrigued with the delay skill. That was the skill he desperately needed. So, at the present time, silence enveloped the room. Sang-Yun brought up the topic that the party distributes based on contribution, so if he defeats the monster himself, he assumes that there would be no issues. Daekyung was quiet. It's important for Sang-Yun to obtain the delay skill at that moment in preparation for the future events. However, most people would think badly of newbie players who are cocky like that. Sang-Yun expected that no one would take him seriously. They asked him who he thought he was. They told him to get off on his high horse when he doesn't mean that much just because he killed a few orcs. Sang-hyun told him to calm down. Daekyung told him to do as he pleased. The players were surprised with Daekyung's response, but Daekyung clarified that Sang-hyun could do that only if they failed to defeat the boss. Only then can they enter the dungeon on their own and kill it himself. In Sang-hyun's head, it was easier than he thought. Sang-hyun confirmed if it meant that he'll be stepping out of the battle. Daekyung told him to do as he pleased. Then he started walking forward. The players hurried to catch up to him while telling him to wait for them. In Daekyung's head, that cocky bastard acts like he is the shit just because he has one broken skill. Daekyung told himself that he will make sure to clear the dungeon and shush Sang-hyun. He pushed the door open while thinking that he will show Sang-hyun that experience is what matters on the battlefield. Daekyung was surprised to see the inside. The system informed him that they had entered the room of the middle boss. The torches were lit up on both sides of the room, and at the center stood the middle boss, a bloodthirsty demon orc. He instructed everyone to prepare for battle. Although the monster looked intimidating, he had heard that it is easy to defeat. He ordered the players to circle around it and attack it from the rear. In Daekyung's mind, he won't let Sang-hyun have the chance to solo play. Daekyung decided to take the lead. But in a blink of an eye, Daekyung was lying on the floor while his forehead was bleeding. He was dumbfounded as to what happened. Sang-hyun was worried when Daekyung and the other players started running. His expression was funny when he thought that Daekyung and the others would just charge at it head-on. It's the reason why they failed back then, too. The players were scared and were backed into the corner. They knew if it kept up, they would die. Daekyung wondered why it was so strong. Even the previous high orc, too. He realized that he shouldn't have taken the advice he got from the markets. Daekyung ordered everyone to retreat, but then he saw Sang-hyun, who smiled at him when he heard that. They think something is wrong with Sang-hyun for still wanting to solo play. Regardless, Daekyung ordered everyone to retreat. Since it has low peripheral vision, they will make a break for it on its flank. Everyone was relieved to hear that order from Daekyung. Daekyung addressed Sang-hyun. He emphasized how he warned him already, and if he dies, he shouldn't hate him. Sang-hyun smiled and replied that Daekyung shouldn't worry about him. With conviction, Sang-hyun stated that he won't die. The demon orc charges at Sang-hyun. If they purely compare the stats of the demon orc and him, he would never be able to win. However, with all the experience Sang-hyun had gained, he slashed the demon orc. It growled loudly. The players stopped when they heard a clunk. It meant that Sang-hyun managed to deflect the axe. Sang-hyun expressed that his hand stings. It made him realize that deflecting the attacks is all he can do. The demon orc growled again. Sang-hyun set his eyes on the crimson stone chained on the demon orc's chest. It's been a while since he saw it. The reason why Sang-hyun is obsessed with the crimson stone is the special effect combining the delay skill and his own status skill, Demon Bash. It is hard to see how the 2-second stun that Demon Bash currently has can be improved considering it is pretty decent. However, with his proper skill, Devour Artifacts, he is able to combine the effects of the different skills, which gives him an idea to try and see what will happen if there is a skill that allows him to stack the stun effects of Demon Bash. That would be the ideal combination of skills, giving him an infinite stun. So, if he can get the delay skill, it is more than possible. He challenged the demon orc to come at him. The demon orc made a loud noise. Then it raises its axe and charges at Sang-hyun. That's exactly what Sang-hyun wanted. So, he can find the monster's weak spots. The demon orc's axe hit the ground. Demon Bash level 1 has been activated. The demon orc was stunned for 2.0 seconds. Daekyung couldn't believe that the skill worked on middle bosses. It's such a broken skill. Sang-hyun knew that orcs are simple, but he expected more from the demon orc. But then Sang-hyun was caught off guard. The demon orc had kicked him. He used his great sword to stop him from flying further backwards. Sang-hyun admitted that he forgot about that. The demon orc has self-regeneration ability. The demon orc's self-regeneration ability has lifted the stun effects early. In order to stun it again, Sang-hyun needed 15 more seconds, and it's why he needed delay. He decided that if he can't stun him, he will defeat him instead. The demon orc charges at him once again. To Sang-hyun, defeating him was simple enough. Daekyung watched them, but the other player told him that they have to go at once. The player commented that Sang-hyun's skill isn't even working. Daekyung asked why. Daekyung knew that the stun skill doesn't work, and there is a massive gap between the stats, so it's a puzzle to him on how Sang-hyun could still make a face like that. Daekyung questioned if he's truly a newbie player. Sang-hyun had experienced the same situations in the past. If he's too weak, he just needs to focus everything on one point. He abandoned cutting the enemy. Instead, he used their strength to his advantage, to pierce through. Few moments later, lots of broken weapons could be seen. The system congratulated him for defeating the middle boss, Demon Orc. Sang-hyun had leveled up. He had obtained the E-rank Demon Hunter title. The title gives him health regeneration by 5-fold when facing middle bosses or above. Now, Sang-yun has 2 titles. He guessed that it's the benefits of being a solo player. He saw Dae-kyung and the other players marching towards him. They were all dumbfounded. In order to avoid situations like that, one thing came to Sang-yun's mind. He acted like he almost died. Then he buttered up at the leader, saying that he would have been dead if not for the leader dealing that damage earlier. He convinced a player, and this player asked Dae-kyung when he would do damage like that. Dae-kyung was confused. Then it sank in. He watched Sang-yun, who has a smug look on his face. His expression conveys to Dae-kyung not to be stupid. Dae-kyung saw the Crimson Stone. Dae-kyung interpreted Sang-yun's message as to keep his promise. He mumbled to himself that it's his complete defeat. He announced to everyone to pay attention. Now that they have defeated the middle boss, they need to get ready for the final boss. They ascended the stairs with their morale being boosted. They still don't believe that the newbie managed to defeat that thing on his own. They wished for that stun skill, too. But the other player told him it's useless, since it doesn't work on middle bosses. Now that the audience is gone, it's not time for Sang-yun to eat the Crimson Stone. This is a silver artifact, which is an accessory that has the special effect called Delay, and it increases health plus 10 and strength plus 10. It is a rare item that can be obtained by defeating the demon orc, a crystallization of strength, tenacity, and endurance. Our boy didn't waste any more time and entered the gap of unconsciousness. Sang-yun was served by Master Chef's bibim naengmyeon with meat jelly. He was pleased. It felt like everything was going his way. The system informed him that he is ready to absorb the Crimson Stone. He took a bite, and absorption of Crimson Stone was in progress. Per the 20% base stat absorption rate of silver rank, his strength and heath stats increased by +2, and he gained the special effect Delay. He can now add the effect of Delay on his skills. That made Sang-hyun nervous for some reason. He binds it to Demon Bash. He was informed that the effect of Delay has been added to Demon Bash. If he uses the Demon Bash before the first stunned state is over, he is guaranteed an extension into a second stunned state. The third has a 90% chance, the fourth has a 60% chance, and the fifth consecutive use has a 30% chance to continue extending the stunned state. Sang-yun's consciousness came back to his body. Sang-yun was happy that there is a guaranteed 4-second stun. He only guessed it would be possible theoretically, but it did work. Dae-kyung approached him so they could talk. Dae-kyung told him that right in front of them is the final boss room, the Orc Berserker. Sang-hyun asked if Dae-kyung wanted him to join in. Dae-kyung replied no, which surprised Sang-hyun. Dae-kyung stated that he would be a failure as a leader if he didn't utilize a member like him. He extended his hand for a shake hand and invited him to work together. Sang-hyun clasped his hand with Dae-kyung, saying that his conditions are still the same. Dae-kyung agreed to it. The yellow-haired player approached Dae-kyung to report that they are ready to enter the boss room. Dae-kyung replied that they should get going. He advised everyone to keep their guards up. The yellow-haired player had a scowl on his face. Sang-hyun noticed that and was confused by it. Dae-kyung boosted their morale by saying that it's the final stretch and afterwards they will go drinking. Sang-hyun wondered why the player glared at him. At dungeon number 85 final boss room. The final boss looked scary with its sharp, huge teeth and grim appearance. The final boss is called the Orc Berserker. It had long hair that covered its face. Dae-kyung told Sang-hyun that he will go in first. But Sang-hyun stepped forward and told him to stick with him. Sang-hyun's action shocked them. They advised against it. Sang-hyun knew that Orc Berserkers have lower skill resistance compared to Demon Orcs, so it should be easier to stun it if he attacks calmly. Sang-hyun expected not to have any problems. Orc Berserker charges forward. Sang-hyun thought about his words. Stick with me, and doubted that he ever said such words of confidence. When he was young, he was just scared all the time, and after he grew old, he struggled to stay alive. He doesn't want to live the same way again. He knew he needed to change. He's talking about his weak past and his future. And to do that, he needs to show and prove to everyone in there. Dae-kyung watches him and comments that he's a monster. Because Sang-hyun displayed his overwhelming abilities. With just one slash, he was able to almost sever half of the boss monster's body. He yelled at them that the orc will be stunned for 4 seconds. Demon Bash Level 1 has been activated. He urged them to go in and nuke the Orc Berserker. The Orc Berserker was in pain. It was slashed all over its body. The system congratulated them for defeating the Orc Berserker. And they have cleared the dungeon called Altar of the Crimson Orc. The black-haired player with a shield commented that the dungeon was easy. Another player replied that stun made things easy. The porters wondered if Sang-hyun had a personal porter already. One of them plans to ask him. But the other porter didn't like that, because he wanted to ask too. Seeing how fast they turned against each other made Sang-yun feel uncomfortable. The system informed him that he leveled up and obtained the D rank with Overwhelming Power title. This title makes his status effects last 10% longer. He commented that he's harvesting a lot of titles. He never got titles in his previous life, but still, it was nothing compared to a certain man. He's talking about Do Gyung-soo, the Ghost Blade, title collector, the complete sword. He is the strongest swordsman player in Korea and has many titles. Only 2 years after the age of players began, he's a monster who surpassed level 500. Before Sang-yun regressed, that man was just someone he looked up to. But now, he planned to catch up. He thinks he had a chance if he worked harder. His fired-up action made Dae-kyung ask what he's doing. He simply replied that he's just stretching. Dae-kyung praised him for the great work and gave him an item. Sang-yun was surprised. He accepted it and asked what had gotten into Dae-kyung. Dae-kyung acknowledged that Sang-yun carried them, and he told him that what he gave him is just a bronze rank so he can afford to be generous. Sang-yun pointed out how blunt he is. Dae-kyung joked that he wouldn't have given it to him if it was too expensive, but in his head, he is giving that Sang-yun since they won't be seeing each other from then on. It hurts, but Dae-kyung admitted to himself that Sang-yun is on a different level from them. Meanwhile, the yellow-haired player watches them from afar. He's furious that Dae-kyung is taking more care of that bastard just because he showed his skill a couple of times. He felt bad, because he had been Dae-kyung's servant for so long. He felt that it was unfair. He whipped out his phone while saying that those motherfuckers should die together. He called someone. The next day, at Sang-hyun's house in Songpa District, Jamsil-dong, Sang-hyun felt happy that he's a player. Porters only get about $200 a day, but his bank account has $6 million. It looked like Dae-kyung had given him more than double the others, and a bonus item, too. The item was a Berserker ring. It is a bronze artifact support equipment. It has a special effect called Lighten and add strength plus 10. It is a ring that can only be obtained from orc berserkers. It's a ring that draws out the blood rage of the wearer. Even if it's just a bronze rank, he still got it for free. He has to spend 1 mana every second to reduce the weight felt from all artifacts equipped to 1 gig. He now understands why it's bronze. Most players would run out of mana before they swung their sword. Well, that was for most players. Sang-yun discovered his ability only after 50 years, but that's exactly why he studied so hard. He devoured an artifact that needed mana in his previous life as well. But the results were shocking. The special effects of artifacts that require mana do receive a penalty, but they lose their mana cost. Our boy was now excited to just do another of his mukbang challenges. The mana synchronization with Berserker Ring had begun. Sang-hyun didn't care about the penalty because he believed that the more skills, the better. Meanwhile, at Private Club H in Seoul, Gangnam District, the yellow-haired player yelled that he's not lying when he said that the bastard had a 4-second stun. The man asked him if he's raising his voice. That made the yellow-haired player cower. The man asked why he would care. He asked the yellow-haired man if he wanted to get revenge. The yellow-haired player replied, no, since the bastard is definitely loaded. The man asked what exactly he wanted him to do. The yellow-haired player insists that he wants business. The large ma'am concluded that the yellow-haired player wanted revenge. The woman beside the scarred man whispered in his ear and asked if they're not very close. Then he called the yellow-haired guy and cut his ear. The scarred man asked this poor player who he thought they were. He reminded the guy that they are not his personal servants. Then the man poured a liquor on the player's ear while telling him that he would pay the price. The man told him that he will listen to him as much as his ear is worth. He asked where the hell that bastard is. The next day, at Jamshil 4-3 training grounds, Sang-hyun sat on the staircase. He ate cold cucumber soup and obviously didn't like it. But that's what it came out of the Berserker Ring. He felt nauseous. But he's optimistic. There's always light at the end of a dark tunnel. He made his sword twirl in the air effortlessly. The sword felt so much lighter. Lightweight is always active, and there's no cooldown. Due to the effects of the Devour Artifact skill, the mana consumption effect of the old skill has been deleted. As a penalty, the effects of lightweight have been halved. The weight of all artifacts will be effectively 100 grams. Sang-yun decided to settle for a great sword for the time being. He liked that passive effect. He checked his player info. He is not at level 7 with 3 titles, no constellation, an exclusive skill called Devour Artifacts, and he has consumed 3 artifacts. His HP is 324, MP 32, EXP 307. Then he also checked his status menu, and it showed 13 strength, 12 stamina, 12 dexterity, 10 mana, 16 luck, 15 evasions, 10 defense. He needs to start grabbing the attention of the constellations. Since a player can only have 1 constellation, he had to think about it carefully. If possible, he wants someone who goes well with his best stat, luck, but he knew he lacked the stats to grab the constellation's interest. So, all he can do for now is training. He now stands in front of 100 training dummies. The next thing we see is that the car drove fast. Sang-hyun came out of it and thought he was going to die. He realized that 3 straight days of training and long-distance driving was too much. But he did manage to gain a new skill, ambidextrous sword training, a passive skill for swordsmen. It increases his adaptability with all swords, excluding daggers and one-handed longswords. He is in front of dungeon number 101, a solo-player exclusive dungeon. Sang-hyun knew that it would take him months of waiting in line just to enter a solo-player dungeon. He was happy that he could drive to one. He noticed something. There was a black car nearby. He didn't expect them to follow him into the forest. He doesn't know what they want, but whatever it may be, he plans to take care of it in the dungeon. Several men entered. It was a group of men that the yellow-haired player talked to. Someone said that they are in a dungeon for solo players only. That surprised the man with a scarred eye. Sang-hyun was waiting for them by the side. He knew that there's no way they entered the wrong dungeon. "This is my spot," he said. The men asked him if he's a fucking idiot. Sang-hyun knew that they are no ordinary party. He told them that he won't report them if they just leave. He saw that the group doesn't have a healer of a mage. They discarded sustainability, something necessary for every dungeon clear, and formed a party composed exclusively of swordsmen and an archer. Sang-hyun is aware that they are a party who specializes in hunting humans, called the Hyena Pack. The large man commented that Sang-hyun thinks highly of himself. The other man called Sang-hyun an idiot because if he dies there, they won't even recover his body. In the past, they have been eradicated by the Players Association's constant surveillance. Sang-hyun replied that he's well aware of that. For parties like them, the archers are the hardest to deal with. The archer replied that they should wrap things up quickly. Sang-hyun stated that it's exactly what he wanted from them. If he needed to get rid of the bodies, there's no other place than inside the dungeon. That angered the large man. The man with the scarred eye stated that they do it the easy way. The large man replied that ripping Sang-hyun's mouth off is the easy way. Sang-hyun affirmed them by listening to their boss, then urged them not to waste his time so they should attack all at once. The large man uttered that Sang-hyun better shut his fucking mouth. He attacked him. Sang-hyun anticipated the attack. Sang-hyun thought that the statement survival of the fittest suits the dungeons well. Monsters are always after his life in dungeons, and within those same dungeons lie artifacts that people are after. Their life is always on the line. They die if they're weak, and there are no rules or laws when they're inside a dungeon. So they have to kill if they want to live. That's what Sang-hyun experienced in his past life, and it still applies to this age. As a result, everything that happens there is just self-defense. The large guy was down, and he challenged the rest to come at him.